she takes all the money out his bank account. He loses custody of the children, and she takes all the furniture they had from their home together, and she takes it with her to the new house because she moved in with the guy.
Right, but all you can do is laugh sometimes. Nothing left but a Snicker bar. Shit. What's up, people? Welcome to the Coffee Pod. My name is Tisha Zed.
Drink the coffee, it'll make you feel better.
Man shares advice based on experience. He says, men, if you're dating and looking for a wife, make sure you find a wife with good moral character. Good moral character. You're going to want to hear this story. No more wasting time. Let's get it.
I learned a valuable lesson at a very early age. The most important trait you should look for when looking for a significant other is high character and integrity. So when I was like 22, 23, I had this coworker and he was married. And him and his wife, they was married for 10 years. They had 2 children. And then he went on a deployment. And when he was on a deployment, his wife had an affair with another guy. And she fell in love with him, apparently. So when he and how he found out is even crazy. It's crazy how he found out. So he found out because y'all know if you got Apple products, iPhone, laptops, whatever it is.
I knew it. Apple products have done more damage to relationships, probably more than word of mouth, people that tell on other people. I believe Apple products, and I mean when your phone is connected to the laptop and the laptop's connected to the iPad. How many stories have we heard exactly like this? I know I've heard a bunch. Let's keep listening.
How the cloud, like everything is connected. So she had the phone, but she left her computer at home while she was on her deployment. So all the messages that her and the dude was doing, it would come back to her computer, and her husband, he could see all of it. So he said, break his heart. He heartbroken. But he wasn't ready to leave her. Like in his mind, he still thought like, we gonna be able to work this out. So he talking to her while he deployed, and he quickly realizing like, oh damn, like my wife might be gone. It sounds like she really in love with this dude. So he like, I guess it's over, but I'm not gonna make any moves. I'm gonna wait till this deployment over till I get back home and see where everything at. The whole time, like cheating, infidelity in the military, it's a very big deal. Like you could get kicked out, all that. But he decided not to tell on her because he like, this is the mother of my children. Like,
right.
If I tell on her, she get kicked out of the military and I'll leave her. How she gonna take care of herself? How she gonna take care of the kids and all that stuff? So he decided not to like get her in trouble or anything. So fast forward.
What would you guys do in that situation right there? And you have to imagine he's reading some very heartbreaking texts. They're flirting, they're talking sexual types of stuff. And he still wants to fix the marriage and relationships. There are men out here who are willing to work through infidelity. Not many, but they exist. What would you do?
He gets back home, and guess what? She immediately files for a divorce.
Jeez.
How divorces work, especially in we was in California. This happened in California. Like whoever, for whatever reason, whoever files for divorce first, they kind of have like the upper hand. So she files for divorce. He doesn't fight it, so it was like a quick process. They get divorced. So they get divorced, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she takes all the money out his bank account. He loses custody of the children, and she takes all the furniture they had from their home together, and she takes it with her to the new house because she moved in with the guy. And so she take all the furniture from the crib and take it to the new crib. So all he had in the crib now was a couch. That's the only thing she left. She left him the living room couch, but no TV, no furniture. It was like literally an empty house, just a living room couch. And it's so crazy, and I remember it so vividly because when he was describing the story to me, I could just see the pain like in his eyes. Like the first couple of nights, he was eating Snickers. Like that's what he had for dinner. He was eating like Snickers because that's all he can afford. I forgot this part too. They had one vehicle and she took that too. I'm laughing, but it ain't nothing funny about this. Like this is some serious stuff, and this happens to a lot of people all the time. But
right, but all you can do is laugh sometimes. Nothing left but a Snicker bar. Shit.
He eventually gets back on his feet. It take him probably like almost 2 years. He gets back on his feet and he's good now, like everything good. He's remarried now and everything. And the only reason I'm bringing this story up because I just talked to him and it made me think like so many of us look for the wrong things when we come to look for a partner. Like we look for all vanity type of shit. It's all based on looks, how good somebody makes you feel, how nice their body is and all that type of shit. And not to say that's not important, because at the end of the day, like, you need to be attracted to your partner. So that is like very important. But at the same time, is not the most important thing. The most important thing, at least in my opinion, is integrity, high character, and if somebody is God-fearing. Because somebody with those traits, there's a less likelihood that they'll betray you to that level. Before they do something that crazy, they're going to have second, third, fourth, fifth thoughts about it. And they won't do it just because it's against their own moral code. It's against just the way they live. It has nothing to do with you or anybody else they interested in. It's just against them morally to do anything heinous like that. And sometimes, especially us men, we get so peeved and obsessed with somebody that we lose sight of everything. Like, every red flag, every violation, we just look past it because we're like, damn, she's so bad, and I can't imagine my life without her. I can't imagine losing her.
Shout out to Xavier C. Miller. That's him on TikTok. Let's keep listening.
So we end up allowing so much just because we value the wrong things. This don't even just apply to men. This apply to everybody. Yeah, when y'all out here on a relationship hunt or whatever it is, make sure y'all putting value in the right things. Shit could get real ugly, and it could get ugly. It could be good for a year, 2 years, 5 years, but it's only a matter of time for somebody to show their true character. And that could damage your entire existence, where it could take years to recover from.
Really good advice. Really good advice. I knew personally for myself that when I was going to get married, I needed to pick a wife who feared God. You know, there are people who don't fear God. To me, my own approach to relationships is I knew that when I found a wife, it'd be a woman who feared God. And what that does a lot of the times, and listen, I know that people who believe in God mess up all the time. But there's something about somebody who is held to a standard outside of the confines of that relationship. There's something about that. Because, in all honesty, we are all effed up people. And we'll always give a human being a reason to treat us badly. That's not excusing this type of behavior. But I'm backing him up here in what he said about integrity. And that person has to have some type of integrity and moral compass within themselves. Because there are people who say things like, I would never do that. Or chicks who might say things like, why would she do that? I would never do that. You don't know what you would do if you were pushed to resentment that much. Or in her case, if you were heads over heels over some guy who just happened to bust a cheek so good that you start losing your mind. And when a woman has opened her legs to a man and he conquers her sexually, she bonds with him chemically, and it's very difficult for her to separate sex and love in those situations. And so she would do almost anything to convince herself that that's the man for her. Again, there has to be a reason that person, maybe it was instilled, the integrity was instilled in their home. Maybe they don't want to embarrass their family. There has to be something outside of the person who they're in a relationship with that they care about. Otherwise, a lot of these chicks, if the right combinations happen, and by that I mean either she feels like you've crossed the boundary of disrespect, offense, or whatever, or she runs into the right guy, they are ready to crash out fast, not slow.
Drink the coffee, it'll make you feel better.
Modern women especially. Let's check out some of these comments and see what other people had to say. What do you guys think of that? Very, very terrible story. That was actually captioned story of the worst wife ever. This commenter says, that happened to my brother. Literally drove home to my mom's house with nothing. Goes on to say he paid for her schooling and everything. Then she divorced him and took everything after his deployment. So he paid for her school, educated her, and after educating her, she decided to divorce him. This is pretty common. I know, man. I know these stats and this news is tough to take in a lot of the times. When women get better jobs, become more educated, they are shown to be more likely to divorce their husbands. The same doesn't happen in most cases for men. Somebody else here says, best trait, in my opinion, unconditional love. So this person goes on to say, too many people getting into relationships, marriages based on conditional aspects of relationships. Here is the reality when it comes to any relationship. Any relationship is really conditional. Even relationships with your significant other, wife, husband, girlfriend, boyfriend, it is conditional. There's no such thing as an unconditional relationship. The closest you get to that is the relationship a mother has for her children. Somebody else who says karma gonna get her. Here's somebody else who says she knew, she just didn't give an F. 405 likes. Here's a gentleman who says he also went through the same thing. He wrote, I went through that. Ex-wife emptied out a 2-story home while I was at work. Lost the house, half of a life retirement 3 months before retirement. Men, he says, do not get married. It's very interesting, but not surprising that when you see somebody who's been beat up this much by the experience of marriage, then they reach this conclusion of men shouldn't get married. And then when you have somebody who has a successful marriage and they found a good wife, will say something like, make sure you choose the right person, right? My man's credit here, there are more people going through what he's going through than not. Somebody else here added, some people can put on a facade for years. All you have to do is give them time and space, and then they will show you their true colors. I have a different approach on this topic. This idea that a lot of people have of, oh, that's who they really are. These are their true colors. Now you see them for who they really are. I think it's really bullshit. I believe people who are truly aware of human nature and even are introspective enough to look at themselves very hard understand that anybody can be pushed to that level of resentment, anger, point in their life where they're willing to do things that can be very outside of their character. You know this when you talk to divorced couples, when you hear the woman tell her side of the story and the man tell his side of the story. We know society will usually pander to the women. But my point here is that they both say horrible things about the other person, and at that point, two people who loved each other turn into enemies who are willing to do whatever it takes, regardless of how the other person feels, to make sure they're not effed over the most as a result of the end of a relationship. What am I trying to say? We're all capable of being very terrible people. And I think sometimes it's necessary in order to protect yourself. You've got to be cold at times. Otherwise, then if you're too forgiving in some cases, you may be like this guy and end up in a situation where all you got is a Snicker bar and a couch. Here's another comment that says, integrity, good character, responsible, and disciplined are all needed. Yeah. And it's tough. It's tough finding a woman in our day and age who you believe has good integrity. It's tough finding a man today who has discipline. Most men, all it takes is the right woman, and they're folding, bro. They fold easily. Here's somebody else who says, it's crazy he remarried again, LOL. Actually, it's not that crazy. 86% of people who divorce remarry. 86%. Another person here responded back to that comment and says, bravest thing you could do is love and trust again after you've been hurt. You can't be miserable forever just because of one person. I would say this. I don't like taking the approach of blanketing everybody who doesn't get remarried as bitter and whatever else someone may want to do. I think out of that 86%, there's still 14% of people who decide not to get remarried. And if they're making that choice, it's okay. It's okay to go through a tragic situation and think, I don't want to go through that again. I am cool, right? I have my kids. Maybe I might date a little bit, but I don't want to go through that traumatic experience again. Let's see. Here's a woman who says, that's so mean, ... I could never be spiteful enough to take everything. And she might actually mean this. But I think the better approach to life when you hear stories like this is to understand just how capable human beings are of being selfish. And it's always the people who say, that's evil. I would never do that. I'm different. You don't know yourself. It's the people who understand their ability to be like, you know what? I could do this, but you're lucky that I was raised right, or I have some morals or standards, or I'm not able to sleep at night being that terrible to you, or that I believe in God and I'm not trying to enter into a match of trying to see who can burn the other person the most, because they have integrity and a standard and boundaries that they're not willing to cross outside of just that relationship, that are not based on you, like he said there in that video, which I thought was really good advice. He responded here and says, that's what they all say in the beginning. Very, 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 very true. Listen, guys, as always, I'm curious to know, what do you think? Leave your comments down below. I appreciate you as always for checking out yet another episode of the Coffee Pod. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.